Bum, bum. Dun, 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 dun. Do, 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 do. Da, 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 da. I come back to let you know. Got a thing for you, and I won't let go. Well, howdy, folks. How y'all doing? I'll give it a minute or two before I start. Oh, I got a thumbs up. Now, how do you get a thumbs up when no one's watching? Oh, there's one person. Okay. Well, whoever you are, thank you for the thumbs up. I certainly do appreciate it. Yes, yes, yes. All right. I'll give it another minute here and then I'm going to dive right in. No pun intended. What's new out there, everybody, in YouTube land, in expat land, in digital nomad land? I decided I was gonna go live. I mean, I said the other day I probably only go live maybe once every 3 to 6 months, and sometimes I go years, but I've had a lot of little YouTube time this week, more than usual, because I've been taking a shuttle over to the trade show, which gave me about 30 to 40 minutes in a bus or a van, I guess it is, every day, and I had a chance to actually listen, which is something I rarely do. And I noticed that everyone is giving advice and everyone is an expert. They're an expert in everything from financial matters to relationships with people in Southeast Asia, uh, financial advice, where to live, how much it costs, the 5 things I wish I knew before I moved to the Philippines, that sort of thing. And if you want the intensive inside track, you could hire me. You can send me a PayPal and I'll answer your questions. There's one girl, I'm not going to say who it is, but she's even charging people to answer an email. You have to pay the person like, oh, I want to say it's $4 to $5, and you get one question answered in an email. And if you want to spend $10, you can do it on a video call, and $20 you can do a face-to-face meeting, etc. There's like a pricing plan. And I thought, you know what? Thank you, everybody, all 12 in the house. I thought, okay, this cannot be real because I've been in Southeast Asia for more than 12 years and I have people ask me questions every day. I give it answers for free. Now, why would someone give someone $20 or $5 or $10 to answer a single question in an email? Now, if somebody has a question, I want you to ask me the question, and I'm going to answer it to you for free. And I'm going to give you the true answer, not the usual bullshit answer that you get on YouTube. Because almost everything you hear on YouTube is complete bullshit. especially when it comes to relationships, especially when it comes to the costs of living and so on. I did a show a number of years ago. I talked about how many, what I looked up the statistics of expats and how many of them survived 5 years in the Philippines. And the answer is like 96% of them do not make it to the fifth year. Then the question after you learn this is, okay, what made people leave? Now, I've lived in condos, places like this that you're seeing most of the time I lived there. And most of the condos I lived in when I lived in the Philippines, everyone was a foreigner. None of them were locals. And I met literally hundreds of guys over the years. And on day one, they come in with all the enthusiasm of the world. They're very chipper and they have all the, oh, this is greatest thing in the world. And, usually by 3 to 6 months, you start to see a massive change. And usually within the first year, almost more than 50% of them run away with their tail between their legs. And I've asked a lot of them, probably more than 50 of them, why did you decide to move? Or what was it that really did it for you? And I think most of them would tell you they were disillusioned. They were sold a bill of goods by vloggers who lied to them and who told them a lifestyle and a way of life that was pure fantasy just to get views and clicks. And then when they got there, the reality was nothing like the fantasy they were sold. So I want to answer your question for free. How about that? Foreign expats equate swimming in pools to flaunting. Well, if they do, that's their problem. If swimming is flaunting, wow. I grew up in a neighborhood where everybody had a swimming pool. And I remember being in a helicopter one time, flying over Orange County. And it seemed like 50% of the homes, about 3 million of them, had pools. I guess everyone's flaunting, huh? What would you rather them flaunt, though? A fan room where they're screaming at the walls because they're lonely? Or burying their sorrows in a glass of beer? Let's see. Hey, Lillian, how are you? Thank you for coming to the show, and thank you as well, Honey Co. So that's my mission here today. And I'm only going to be on for a few minutes because I'm waiting for the rest of my party here to show up. They had to go get the laundry, so I had a few minutes. So anyway, going back to my story, I used to ask the guys all the time. I got to know them either at the gym or in the condo. What changed? A lot of them thought it's going to be sunshine and roses and nonstop party moments and nonstop laughter and everyone's smiling. But when they got there, what do they get? Scams, skin taxes, girls that were playing games that were just using for their money. I've heard it all. And I've been an expat longer than most people have. I've met a few people who've been at it longer than I have. I don't know if I technically count as an expat because I'm still working, but let's just say living abroad. So the disillusionment is real, and 95%, 96% never make it to the fifth year because they end up going back because it didn't turn out to be such a paradise for them as they were expecting. I think all of these things can be avoided by hearing the truth and managing your expectations. The other thing I highly recommend doing is going to all of the Southeast Asian countries and spending a month or 2 in each one to find out what works best for you. I think some people are much more wired for Thailand or Vietnam or Philippines or Malaysia, whatever it might be, versus the other one. Sometimes it just fits better into them culturally. Howdy co. So I want to offer that. Now, no one will take me up on it. That's the amazing thing because what people tend to get their advice from, there's another vlogger here. I won't name his name, but he has 4 bankruptcies and he's a chain smoker, and yet he gives financial advice and he gives healthcare advice. So, I mean, it sounds funny, but this is what happens. Some of the well-known, there's a well-known vlogger. Well, again, I'm not going to say who it is, but he's been doing this for years, and he abandoned his family for 10 years in the Philippines, and he just went back to America for the first time. And he when he was in the Philippines, he went from city to city to city, living in fan rooms, teaching people how to get free sex by scamming people. And it's like, this is not who you go to if you want some legitimate answers. So, but that's what happens. Most bloggers, not all, are losers who did something wrong. Something did not work out in their life, and they were forced to go online to find a way to make a living. And it's much easier to play into people's fears and to create the sense that they are your consultants. You can give them consultation fees, you can give them super chats, views, and everything else. And they're going to set you straight. They're going to be the one to guide you. Most of these clowns couldn't guide their way out of a paper bag. So that's my mission. What else is going on? I actually was listening to yesterday. I saw that Nico had done a live stream, and I fell asleep right when his live stream started. And when I woke up, the live stream had disappeared. What's up with that, Nico? And I did see also Kevin had an amazing show. He had a huge panel, Popeye and Lost the Nomad. Uh, I think he had Richard Lee Rogers in the beginning and a bunch of other people. He had a great show, and Kevin, definitely you're hitting your stride, my man. Kevin's killing it. Ricky had a few uploads today that I saw, funny as usual. I think we all miss Ricky's streams. I remember when Ricky, hey, Passport TV, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, everything's going great. Passport TV is one of the great guys out there. I remember when Ricky, he went in Germany back in 2020, I think it was. And he was doing these short little 1-minute uploads. And then Ricky came here, I think it was in December of 2020, and came to Thailand, came to Bangkok and quarantined for 2 weeks. And then all of a sudden, he was doing live streams on a daily basis and sort of morphed into the guy that really became the most popular guy in the genre, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, that's awesome. If you don't know Passport TV is a person who puts up real interesting content. He lives in Romania. Plus, he's funny. Um, I think he's retired from a lot of the comedy part of his show, but he used to do the best shorts of anybody. Very funny, and if you want some good frank, uh, memes and, comedy skits, if he still has them up there, nobody can do it better than Passport TV. Arcelia's Corner! How are you? So, if you need any advice, how much does it cost? How to get laid? How much I mean, if you want bar girls, do you want real relationships, real girlfriends? I was single for probably 8 of the years, and I was with tons of people, maybe hundreds and hundreds. So I know that lifestyle and I know the other side and raising children and everything. And I, you know, how much does it cost to live here? What do you need? What do you have to be prepared for? I will answer anyone's question for free. Stop paying jokers online that are just giving you a bunch of bullshit. The thing is, I've traveled all over the world. I've been to 100 countries. And like right now, we live in Da Nang. Now, I'm not in Da Nang right now. I'm in Bangkok, but um, Da Nang is our favorite place. It doesn't mean it's going to be anyone else's favorite place. I grew up at the beach. I love living by the beach. I like surfing. And I'm just a beach guy. We lived in Boracay in Philippines before, but that's not for everybody. Other people might want a cooler climate like not Boracay, sorry, Baguio or Dalat in Vietnam. And I really think that it's important if you want to do this that you go and visit all the countries because if you're a person, for instance, that has a healthcare issue, you're much better off being here in Bangkok or being in Kuala Lumpur. You get world-class healthcare for pennies on the dollar. If you're a beach person, you're better off in Vietnam. If you're a person who really needs to have English language only and, you don't wanna travel a lot, maybe the Philippines is your best because you can renew your visa month after month. Each one has something unique to offer, and I'm very, honest about my assessment on each one. I don't bash any of them because they're obviously Thailand is more advanced than the Philippines, but there are downsides to that as well. So I just tell the truth based on what I've experienced. Yeah, you don't need to pay consultants. One thing I've noticed everywhere I've gone, because I've always lived around expats. When you live in condos in the Philippines, it's expats or it's other foreigners. When you live in Vietnam where we live with all expats everywhere. There's expats here in Bangkok everywhere. Wherever you go, you find them, and in my experience, they are very willing to share their experiences. You don't have to I mean, I heard a guy the other day, I'm not even making this up. He sold his house. He sold everything. And then he moved to the Philippines and he hated it. And he never had gone there. He did it all based on vloggers and their lies. J Mike is killing it. Where have you been, J Mike? J Mike's a good guy there. He's a guy that comes from New England. He was a controller for a big hotel company. He married Norma and now lives in Rizal Province, which is just like Metro Manila. Might as well be called Metro Manila. It's like connected to Manila. But he lives there in Rizal and he's killing it. Has a great life. Jay's videos of him walking to Baclaren and Santa Mesa. We watch him every single time, Jay. And I might add, my comments are shut off. Oh yeah, I'll have to look into that. Never sell a house or oh my gosh. You're right, Passport. So this guy, he sold it all. I mean, I think he had about 200,000 in equity, 240,000. He lived in the middle part of the United States, sells it all, moves to Dumaguete. I personally, I've been to Dumaguete lots of times. I stayed there. I can't stand Dumaguete. I mean, that's probably my least favorite place in the Philippines. But he moves there expecting it to be the way it was sold to him. And within, of course, a month or 2, he had tremendous regrets. The problem is once you sell, you can't just go back and buy the house again. It doesn't work that way. You can't get back in because you have to pay all the real estate fees, and now there's no money to get back into a similar house. And I'm telling you, anyone who's listening, to spend a year, go to every country in Southeast Asia, at least 1 month. I would say 2 to 3 months. Spend a whole year just going Malaysia, Singapore, uh, Cambodia, Vietnam, Philippines, and Thailand at a minimum, maybe Indonesia as well. And then going and see it, and then which one do I like the best? Where do I feel the most comfortable? Go back to your home, plan your second trip, and only go to that country you like the best. After 2 trips, if you still feel that this is magic, and I wanna be there the rest of my life, then go sell your shit. Put it in storage, do something, but don't sell everything and go to a country that you've never stepped foot in. The culture shock alone is probably gonna drive you right back. Did I see Timmy's t oh, Timmy, Mr. Battaglia. Are you talking about Frank Battaglia? He's been doing, what do they call it? Podcasts with Allo. I think I I have never listened to Frank's show for at least a year and a half to 2 years. I normally would never waste a single minute of my life listening to that buffoon cackle, but because it's Allo, Allo had a podcast, and, I've always gotten along well with Allo, and, so I thought, "Okay, I'm gonna try to listen to" I listened to it for about 20 to 30 minutes. I listened to 20 minutes, put it down, said goodbye, was compelled to listen again, and I made another comment, and you talk about completely falling off the edge of the earth. I think everyone who listened to it, if you weren't already shocked at how shocking this person is, you're definitely shocked now. That was very revealing. It took 7 trips to the Philippines. Yes, Jay. And, I really admire Jay and his life and Norma. You know, he's a 67-year-old guy who didn't come chasing 20-year-olds, didn't go for bar girls, went for a real relationship. And Jay and Norma have a real marriage and a real relationship. And we're very happy for Jay and Mike. And we like him and we admire him. And see, that's the thing. It works for some people. Other people, it doesn't work. 94 to 95% of expats run back to their home country within 5 years. Again, if you go to the Philippines thinking the Philippines is like the US, efficient, huge roads, great food, everything like that, you're gonna be really disillusioned. Uh, if you go there with understanding the differences, I lived there for 10, I think I've lived in the Philippines for 9 years. I enjoyed my time there. I've lived in Vietnam, Thailand, Malaysia, and, I lived in Japan for a year. So I've gotten a good cross section of the different countries. But Jay's a good, success story. Jay, Mike, and Norma Mike are killing it. Steve, 25901. Okay, Steve, answer, what's his name there? Timmy. Now, I don't listen to Frank. I said that a minute ago. I'm not gonna waste my time, but because Aloe was doing it, and I like Aloe, I listened to yesterday for the first time. If anyone was on the fence, if there's a human being on this earth, you know, there's probably not that many human beings, right? That when you have 4 bankruptcies and no one will speak to you, no family, friend, neighbor will even speak to you. But if there was anybody on the fence of what a buffoon he is, go back and listen to that podcast yesterday. And if you have any doubt left, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. That was buffoonery on steroids. Don C is in the house. Yeah, definitely check out that podcast from Allo because that was truly unbelievable what he was able to squeeze out of him. One of the things that I found most unbelievable, and you guys chime in, when a guy says he's eating ramen soup and rice for days a month because he can't afford food, and yet the next sentence is he's going to go after Shaw with more suits and more lawyers, and he owes his lawyer 2 or 3 more payments from what he still owes him. Imagine if I mean, Barry's life was already a total disaster. How much more ruined could a person have already been? Think about how stupid that was. You know how many times okay, you're gonna spend 1,000 just to get your foot in the door for a case. Then you have to do, it's 5,000, 6,000 every time they show up at court. Every phone call's 1,400. The list goes on and on. By the time the bills are done, the person is gonna have spent 12, 15, 20,000 US dollars to deal with the guy that was already completely ruined, and now he completely broke. I mean, at some point, the psychopathy, when you see, "Hey, I can't afford this," the money is dropping faster than a sack of potatoes, and I'm gonna keep going for it, and what's the next step? Homelessness? What's the next step? Starvation for the whole family because of your insatiable desire to go after Barry Jordan? Come on, that's nuttier than anything I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, he traveled all over the place, and but you didn't stop at the first place you went to. I know you went to Cebu, you didn't like it. You went to Thailand, you liked it. Some people, you're not gonna always like, it's not gonna jive with you. That's why everybody should go to each of the Southeast Asian countries. There's a lot of things in Malaysia that I like better than any of these countries. There's things in Thailand I like better than and same thing in Vietnam and so on. But if you only listen to the community, you'd think that there was only one place on earth you could live, like in a hole in the Philippines, screaming at the wall. There's a reason why Thailand's got 32 million tourists. There's a reason why Malaysia's got 40 million plus tourists. I missed that comment from Chef. Where are you? The podcast was hilarious. He is, Jeff. It's the nuttiest thing I have ever heard. I mean, I asked Don and Steve. I mean, they know this stuff way better than I do. Is there anything nuttier than what we heard yesterday? That's got to rank number one. Well, I met Barry in jail. I went to visit him, I don't know, 5 or 6 times. I haven't seen Barry. I've had no communication with Barry for years. I moved from the Philippines, so I lost touch with it. Unlike what Frank thinks, that I'm a high roader financing all this shit behind the scenes. I haven't spent one penny on it, and I don't even have personal communication with Barry. But when I did go see Barry, what did I see? He was playing his Xbox, getting food from outside, had visitors all the time. Barry lived better in the Mandawi Six than he ever lived prior to that in the Philippines. What is Barry's sentence? Well, I don't think anybody knows, man. That's the problem. Philippines lets you go when they're ready to let you go. He owed Frank 250,000 pesos, and Frank expected Don or me or one of the high roaders to pay. We're not spending $5,000 to put it in Frank's hand. I think you'll see white elephants flying before you see that. Yeah, he has to pay the 250,000 in fees, but then he has to pay his sentence for cyber libel. Now, what was the cyber libel? He said someone had a tiny dick, someone was a coward. I mean, the stuff is so insignificant that it's just hard to believe that it even happened. Well, I you should say that if you do live somewhere, just pay your visa fees. I mean, for crying out loud. It's not worth the repercussions. If Barry had been paid up, I sent Barry an email before he got caught, and he told me his visa was paid. I told him, "You better get out of the country and get your visa straightened out," and he didn't. He said it was paid. That's one of the problems Barry had. He lied to everybody that was even trying to be nice to him. Okay, so back to Passport and Steve and all the rest of them. Now, he gets scammed out of his money. They 2.5 million on a land 5-6 loan deal. He'll never see that money again. That's gone. That's history. So the way I looked at it, he was down to 20,000 left from his sale of his house. He spent about 60,000 on the house he lives in, and that included all the upgrades and repairs. So he probably left Hawaii with about 100 grand in his pocket, something like that. And then 100 to maybe 110,000. Did the repairs, had 20,000 left, and then decided, I'm going to get a lawyer and I'm going to go after Barry. So now you're looking at a 3-year plus long obsession, paying lawyers, getting performance guarantees, paying the people to go pick Barry up. Add it all up, and that 20,000 that was remaining is down to 0. Now, a normal person, any rational human being would say, I don't want to lose that 20,000 cushion. I'm gonna stop this before it's too late. But we're not dealing with normal, rational people here. It is, it's very twisted. Yeah, Jimmy's gonna make a Miller beer commercial. A highlight for Jimmy Jennison. Well, that's what ultimately happens because think about this, and he said this, he's got 2 years of not paying his visas with the fees attached to it. Plus, he would have to leave the country for a day or 2 or however long they make you leave. So now he has to do all those things even if they dismiss the case tomorrow. Where does that money come from? And that's why we see him being an e-beggar. He doesn't have anything. That's why we saw him begging all the time before he sold his house in Hawaii. That's why he was living in a closet in Hawaii. Now, I normally don't talk about Frank. I never do because I don't listen to him. But because Frank cannot stop talking about me and everybody else, then it's open game. You know, they did a podcast responding to me. You know, how many months or years did all it took was a troll saying, you know, Big E has a harem, Frank, and he's a bad man, and he's out with other girls. And so everyone thinks that I have a harem because Frank says I do. Everyone thinks that I inherited a bunch of wealth from my father because I grew up in Newport Beach. I never inherited a single dollar from my father. My father started me in investing when I was 14 or 15 years old. I think he matched the first $1,000 that I put in, and he always harped on investing. So I've been investing in the S&P 500. Well, the S&P 500, I've been doing it for 34 years or something like that. But I had other smaller investments in gold, silver, and copper from my dad, and he matched the first 1,000. And then I was able to get my first house financed and, without any help, and then I kept rolling houses and stuff like that. And my dad at one time had 5 houses that he rented some out, and so he gave me some advice on how to do this. So I got a lot of helpful tips from my dad, but I never got a dollar out of my dad. I was too shy to ask because I was the youngest kid, and I just felt like I needed to not be dependent on my parents. But my parents were great people, and my dad was a great guy, but, I never got a penny out of it. But see, it doesn't I only bring this up because it's always brought up, I inherited all this wealth, and of course, it's not true, and it's also not true that I have a harem, and there's a million other things that are not true, but I never bothered to even correct them. 'Cause I just don't give a shit. We live our life the way we wanna live it, we don't care. People don't like us, they don't like us. Thankfully, we've met so many people, and about 95% of them like us. There's a few that didn't like us, or they couldn't handle our lifestyle, and I have no problem with that. I respect that. Not everyone's gonna like you. The shower curtain empire. He suffers from Battagliaism. Yeah, he does, and if he isn't cured from it already with all those pills he's stuffing in his mouth, nothing's gonna take care of that, is it? So I decided I'm gonna come on, what if I ever come on, And I'm not always gonna come on because I'm not trying to build this channel. Years ago, my channel was way bigger than it is. I used to do shows all the time, but I just got tired of it. It's tiring to do YouTube all the time. But because I've had time in a shuttle this last week, I got a chance to listen to more YouTube than I normally do. And I could not believe how many people, including this one Filipina that I won't name, is doing consultations and will answer an email question for a fee. You have a question, or the question would be, how do you know your Filipina really likes you? Well, maybe she spreads her legs. How about that? I mean, why would a person be so socially inept that they have to pay somebody for an email answer to a question like, how do you know your Filipina likes you? Let me tell you another quick thing here before I go, and this might get me in some hot water with the community, but everyone does shows talking about my Filipina this, my Filipina that. One guy from Nebraska that he's a nice guy, but I think he did 5 or 6 years of shows, and in every show is my Filipina fill in the blank. Do you not realize that's exactly right, Passport? If you have a question, A, you can Google it. You can look it up on AI, you can Google it, you can go there, you can ask people who live there. The last thing you should ever do, I'm telling you, if you take nothing away from this, don't ever get advice from vloggers. People that are paying and charging money for their advice, they fucked up in their life. That's why they have to do this. Don't take advice from vloggers. It'd be like getting medical advice from a doctor who got his license revoked. I've met most of these vloggers. I'm not going to say that there was a few that were okay people. Most of them are the saddest sack of shit you'll ever want to meet in your life. People you would never hire to even mow your lawn at your house. So the Filipina. Let me tell you what this really is. Okay. It's just racism. You know, the nonstop sucking up to Filipinas is in a way a form of racism. Why would you think a Filipina is any different than a white woman? They're not different. When you equate them socioeconomically, okay, I've done this before. I've checked out, April can tell you, I've been writing a book where we talk about this issue. It's about 600 or 700 pages long. It's not ready yet. But I looked up all the stats. If you take Filipino family and you move them to the United States, and the father is an engineer and the mother's a nurse, and they make the same amount of money as the engineer and the nurse that's white, they live exactly the same way. There's not a dime's bit of difference. If you want to go into Appalachia or into Louisiana or in hillbilly country and go with people who are unbelievably impoverished, living on the bayou, and compare them to people in squatters areas in the Philippines, you'll find they live exactly the same way too. When you compare people and start to put them in the same category, you take I worked with some engineers in Manila. One guy that lived in Makati, a family, and another one that lived in Laguna. He had a very nice house, and I think he made about 180,000 pesos a month. How do you think they live their life? Do you think they lived in a squatters area? Do you think they let the village The Hillary Clinton village raised them? No. They guarded these people like Fort Knox, their kids. They live exactly the same. People are people, and Passport TV can tell you the same. When you get to know people in Romania, they're just the same. The family structure's the same. The hopes, the fears, certainly some of the customs might be different, the language is different, but when you start to equate people, you'll find that Filipinas are no different than white women or anybody else, and if you think they are, you're starting to divide the sheep from the goats based on race. That is racism. That's what it is. That's it, Passport TV. I remember speaking of Romania, I'm gonna bring up something about Romania. I read the book of Brother Andrew and another one called Hans Christian, which were both Bible smugglers back in the 1970s, back when Romania and Bulgaria were the two most difficult countries in the Soviet bloc in terms of their persecution of Christians. But these people had gone in and they drove in boxes and boxes full of Bibles that they had hidden. I think Hans Christian's prayer was, Lord, when you were on earth, you made the blind eyes to see. I'm asking you now to make seeing eyes blind. He wanted the guards not to see the Bibles that he was smuggling into the churches in Romania and in Russia and in Bulgaria. It's very touching. And, they went into these places and it was so spooky because they were so cut off from the rest of the world. These were like Poland was very westernized, even though it was in the Soviet bloc. Czechoslovakia, some of them that were more toward the west had more freedoms. But as you got deeper into Eastern Europe, they were much stricter and much more harsh. But as they got to know these people, as they smuggled the Bibles in and got to know the underground church and got to know everybody in these places, in Sofia and Bucharest, they found that they're just the same as Americans. They want their kid to have a great education. Um, how do they find their next meal? Where do they get the toilet paper? There's no difference. And so when we start to make differences or think that we have the inside track, we're going to teach you what Filipinas do. How do you know your Filipina likes you? I don't know how that girl thinks she can speak for 120 million people any more than somebody in Florida thinks they can speak for somebody in California. People are people. Remember that. And you don't need special guides, especially people who've never been anywhere, done anything, or tasted success in any way to guide you through the labyrinth of the Philippines or any other country. For one, it's not hard. I went to the Philippines at one point for the first time. We didn't have Google Translate. We didn't have anything. You just showed up, and then you asked people. Asked the guard at the airport, "Where do you get to the taxis?" "Over there, sir." Okay. Then you get in the taxi. "I'm going to the Manila Hotel." Okay. Go to the Manila Hotel. Go to the front desk. "Where do you recommend eating? What's a good attraction to go to around here?" "Well, sir, Intramuros is just around the corner here. You go this way and this way, you can take a tricycle. We could call one over for you, or you can take a taxi, or you can walk it. And if you go up this way, there's SM Manila. And if you go a little bit further, there's Quiapo. And over there is a place called SM Manila. And if you go up here around the corner, you've got Luneta Park. Rizal Park, and to the right here, the US Embassy. Okay, that ought to take me a few days to do all that. Amazing. I managed to do it all without Google Maps, and I did it all without consulting with Geo. The funniest one, though, is on the relationships. You're gonna go and get relationship advice from women that had 3 kids from 3 different fathers and have never had a successful relationship in their life. And the Geo one, I don't wanna mention her name, it seems like a nice girl, uh, is doing consulting on relationship. Well, she just got divorced from Geo. Why would you think she would be qualified? I mean, it's absolutely insane. Well, when did you start traveling, Passport? I started traveling well, I took a trip across Europe in 1986, and they didn't have anything then. I stayed in some barns, I rode bicycles, and I went to I spent the whole summer in Europe, and I had saved up for it, and then before school, I was able to spend a summer in Europe, and, I remember passing by farms in England and saying, "Okay, where's a good place to" everybody helped you. You didn't need anything, they just pointed it out. They didn't have a motive. I've also found out that, I traveled all over the Philippines. I've been in Batanes, the northernmost part. I've been in Tawi-Tawi. I've been all over the Philippines, literally, even in the most place that everyone tells you not to go, all over southern Mindanao. And people have always been very friendly, and they just ask them, "What do you recommend here?" And people are Filipino people just, they answer your question, and they don't ask for money when they'll just answer your question. Traveling since you were 4. Oh, okay, mother's from Sicily. Well, if you've been doing it since you were 4, you certainly know the drill by now. But, part of it is familiarity, yes. I mean, if you've been doing it, you're not as intimidated if you've never done it. And, yeah, you're gonna be a little bit intimidated the first time, but it gets easier every day thereafter. Let me give you one other, little piggy tip here, then I'm gonna take off. Jay, Mike, I can't remember. Keep doing your videos, Jay. Those are the best ones yet. Shows the real Manila and the chaos and some are gonna be scared of that, some are gonna like it. I used to live in Manila. I lived in Makati for a couple of years. I'm not intimidated by it, but I know some people that are, but I think they're terrific. Yeah, that's right, getting lost, and people are friendly, right? They'll ask, "I'm gonna give you something." Uh, oh, I got 8 thumbs up, my gosh. Remember my old show back in COVID times, I used to have a show every night, and my show was a lot more popular then, but mostly for the wrong reasons, mainly trolls who were there to do whatever trolls do. But I remember one show I started, and I had 66 thumbs down before the show even started. Oh, the good old days of YouTube. But I'm gonna say one last thing, and I know Jay's probably gonna disagree with this, but on the dating front, let me just say, one of the reasons why people go to a place like the Philippines is it's a lot easier to get a date. It's a lot easier to find somebody uh, who's younger, more attractive, and so on. We all know that. And a lot of that is because of their purchasing power. Uh, they make 1/12 of the income. They're often looking for the white knight to come and save them. This is well documented. But let's just say if you're gonna do it and you want to date somebody in the Philippines or Thailand or wherever, this is dating 101. Your first trip to Southeast Asia, line up about 21 girls to meet. Okay. One per day, or you could meet two per day for the first 2 weeks. And then the third week, go with the one you like the most, or maybe go with the two or three that you like the most. Spend more time with them. Meet lots of people, and then see the chemistry. And then if you feel the chemistry's right after many, many days, then maybe that's the one that you spend more time with. Okay. Then you go back to your country and see if the chatting continues. Then you come back a second time and you spend more time with that person. If after two trips, you're still feeling that it's growing, it's getting better by the day, then go meet the person's family and all of their friends, where they work, where they went to school. That way they might, make sure they're not hiding a husband. Go to the Philippine Statistic Office, make sure they give you a Cinemar that they have the ability that they're not married. So we're talking third trip. Then on that third trip, exclusively be with that person. If it's still going amazing, then you make your move. You either bring them to your country or you move to their country or whatever you want to do. That's the Big E travel tip for today. Don't be a simp. Don't feel sorry for people and feel that you have to pay them every time there's a crisis or they won't like you. Remember what got you to look in Southeast Asia in the first place, probably because you were a super simp in the US and you had to go and become another simp again in the Philippines, and you're going to get the same result. In the short term, of course, it's going to look good because they're trying to make their best impression and they're going to throw themselves at you and put on the full court press. But that's why you need two or three trips, and it's got to get better and better. Also, when you're back home and the chatting, when you message, make sure that the person's messaging you in real time. If you're doing video calls, make sure their eyes aren't all over the place. Split up the time you normally do your video calls. If you normally do them at 6 p.m., sometimes do it at 1 p.m., sometimes do it at 10 p.m., 8 p.m., 1 a.m. Don't assume that they're more honest than your own people because they're not. Be careful of all of the bullshit scammers. There's a lot of people that want to reap what you have sown, and you gotta be smart about it. That's all I'm saying. A lot of fish out in that ocean, and don't fall for the first crocodile tear that you see. All right. Passport TV is saying bye, and I think it's time for me to say bye. I stayed on way longer than I thought I would. It's been an hour. So again, shout out to Big Kevin for your terrific show that you had for Popeye and Lost the Nomad for Richard Lee Rogers. And uh, even though a lot of people are mad at Allo right now, I'm not one of them. I know what he's doing, and he's allowing Frank a very long rope to hang himself, which he absolutely did yesterday. So, again, if anyone has any legitimate questions about being an expat, a digital nomad, living abroad, ask me. I'll tell you the truth free of charge. Ask J Mike, ask Passport, ask people who have been doing it for years, who are more than willing to help people. Don't fall for every bullshit con man or con that's out there. All right, community. To the community. I love y'all. I miss you. I wish the best for all of you too. I hope that everyone has the epitome of their success in life, meaning they're happy, they're healthy, they're in love, they love their life, they love their relationships, and living life to the fullest. I pray for all of you that that is true. So thank you, everybody. Arcilia, J. Mike, and Passport, Honey Co., Steve, and all the rest that came here, Jeff. We will see you next time on Biggie Medicine Man HVAC, formerly known as Biggie. I'm broke. Talk to you later.